Well, welcome to today's webinar, Getting Prepped for Death, Steps to Prepare for the Loss of a Loved One. My name is Taylor Hiskey. I'm the head of marketing here at Trustworthy. If you are not familiar with Trustworthy, Trustworthy is the family operating system in which you can add and share all your most important documents with family, loved ones, and advisors. I'm also joined by Cairo Amani.
Hi, I'm Cairo Amani. I'm head of customer success at Trustworthy, and I also lead our Trustworthy Certified Experts team, which you'll be hearing more about in the presentation.
Amazing. We're also super thrilled to be joined by Kim Burnett. Kim is a death doula of Good Death Matters. She is also a Trustworthy certified expert for Trustworthy. She is going to be leading us through a very important conversation and topic today. And without further ado, I will turn it over to her to get us started.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. It's my privilege and honor to be joining you all today. So the first thing I'd like to do is, I live in Denver, Colorado, and it snowed this morning, and it's a little bit cloudy, but it's nice and walkable. So I know I could be outside and enjoying that, but instead I'm in here with all of you. So I know you all made a choice to be here today. So I am hoping that you can drop in the chat, which at the bottom of your screen is the little chat looking box, that you click on that and just let me know what is bringing you here today. If there are any particular questions you're hoping to get answered, one thing you want to leave this session knowing more about, that will help me make sure I cover the right territory for you. And if we'll just take a couple minutes to let people do that. Yeah, just because we have a lot of people on the call, rather than doing hands at this point, if people can just drop their questions in the chat. Okay, Cairo, maybe you can take a look at those, and if anything comes up, you can just draw attention to it. That's okay. We'll just go on to the next slide. So I know that many of you may have heard about birth doulas. They are a little bit more commonplace, but I just wanted to take a minute to explain what a death doula is if you weren't familiar with that. It is a profession. We really are there to be with individuals and their families or their loved ones as they are going through the process of death. I mean, as the name of my business states, I believe that good deaths matter. And I think that there's a way in which, just as we have a good birth, we can have a good death and we can have a good life. And it's all part of the same cycle. And so my mission is to try to support those going through the transition of life, to make sure their death is as good as it can be. So we provide, as the slide says, practical, spiritual, and non-medical support to individuals and their families that are going through loss. And different death doulas do different things, but this is how I define my practice: is I'm with you every step of the way. So I'm there before someone passes. So that could be the living well who just are in the process of getting their estate in order and they want to get also their end of life implants order, or it can be someone who's received a terminal illness and it's on their weighing on their mind, kind of their death, their impending death. So I'm there with them at the beginning. I'm also with individuals and their families at the time of their transition. So I sit vigil with people. I'm there to help support individuals. Most of us have never really gone through a death. So I'm there to answer questions and provide support. I'm also trained in the state of Colorado to support those who are pursuing medical aid in dying as well. And then after a death, I'm there for survivors and loved ones to help them with the closing of their estate. So, I'm not a lawyer, but there's a lot of things after the will is read. There's a lot of to-dos, right? To clean out a house, to close accounts, to help with the celebration of life. These are all things that I provide support for. And I also provide support with people to help them understand the process of grief, because we don't really understand that very well. Next slide. So there's a lot of people that are involved in the end of life space. And here are some of the ones that are kind of key. Your estate attorney, your financial advisor, hospice, a funeral home. And one of the things that I know that I've observed in my process is a lot of these key professionals kind of come in and come out during the end of life process. So you may meet with your estate attorney to draw up your will. You may not see them again until after someone has passed and you're going over the reading of the will. Same thing with a financial advisor. Hospice is there in the last, 6 months to last few weeks of life. And then after someone passes, they also leave pretty quickly. Funeral home shows up after a death. But the difference between a death doula is that we're really with you every step of the way. So we kind of help create a nice thread through the process of a common person who understands your family situation and the process that you're going through. So that's really the value add that I think that a death doula can provide. Next slide. So today, we're all here to talk about what are some of the top things that we can do to help prepare for the loss of someone. And it's never easy. So I kind of boil it down to 5 key points that I'll talk about, and you'll see the first and the fifth are the same. I think it is very easy when you think about someone passing to, in many ways, distract yourself from being present with your loved one by all the to-dos. And I put the first and the fifth point are here intentionally to remind you that this is precious time to be with the people that you love and to not let the to-dos distract you. And in many ways, that is often why someone like myself is brought in, because death is hard enough, and the last thing you want to deal with is paperwork. So, we'll walk through these 5 points, and if we want to go to the first one, that would be great. So the first one, in terms of being an intentional and present, is to get support. Whether it's a good friend that you can always talk to, or another loved one, a sibling, or a professional support person. I really encourage you to reach out. This is a good time to reach out to someone, to be able to talk to someone, to lean on those that love you. They don't have to have all the answers. They just need to listen. But it's hard enough to go through a passing by yourself. So I really encourage people to reach out. The second thing is to be sure to try to make time outside of treatment and hospitals. I like to refer to the medical industrial complex when somebody is nearing the end of their life, where you can feel like all you're doing is rushing from hospital visit to hospital visit. And before you know it, you run out of time, because hospitals are set up to treat people and they do great work, but they aren't necessarily always cognizant of saying, hey, you know what? How about we treat your pain and make sure you get to do that one thing with that person that you really want to do. It's also a really good time to reflect on your relationships with your family and with the person who's passing, and to be intentional about how you want to spend your time together. Maybe that's trying to come over every week with them, or go on that last trip or whatever. But this is precious time, and it's a good time to try to take time off from work if you can, so you can be there, or whatever it is, because this is time you're never going to get back. So I really encourage you to prioritize that. And then the final thing on this point is to just control your time, right? Is, again, this kind of ties into the medical industrial complex piece, but it's very easy for others to try to control your time. And it's really for you and your loved one to think about, how do we want to spend the time that we have left together? and to really prioritize that, and to be your own advocate for carving out and, as they say, claiming that time. Next slide. So the second thing that I focus on when I work with clients is to really try to find out what the person who is in the process of dying, what they would want for their final days. Now, of course, everybody wants to die at home. Very few people want to die in a hospital. Every people want to have the time to die gracefully, and that's not always possible. But in an ideal world, I would encourage you to try to have conversations with your loved ones about what they would like for their environment to be. So that's everything from who do they want to have around or not have around. That can include all the pets. What do they want their environment to be like? Do they have a favorite quilt that they want around? Do they have certain kinds of music that they want, or do they want quiet? Are there flower arrangements that they want? How do they want the lighting? How about the temperature? I mean, everything as specific as they can, is like, what's the ideal serene environment that will give them peace to help them in the process of dying? Because dying is hard work. So we want to set up an environment for them that is as supportive as it can be to their last great piece of work. And that includes where. So, I had a client recently who she's like, I want to die in the thick of it. She was the matriarch of that family, and she wanted to be in the family room with everybody around, talking, eating, making noise, being their crazy selves. That's what she wanted. I've had others who were like, I want the most zen environment I can get, with just the babbling brook. And I mean, everybody wants something different. So thinking about that for yourself as well as for your loved one is very important. The next thing is about body care after death. So some people don't care about this, but for some, there are religious or cultural norms that they want to have followed. So that can be everything from what they're dressed in, for how their body is cleansed, if they want a blessing done over their body, anything like that you may or may not be aware of. It's important to talk about that and get that on paper. And again, all of these things are things that I would go through with a client and get written down so that we'd have those instructions at the time of someone's passing and we wouldn't have to think about it, right? It just becomes a work plan. The last thing on this list is probably the one we always think about, is what do we want to have happen to our body when we die? And, a lot of people just say cremation or being buried. There's a lot of options right now with green burials. So if you're not familiar with those, that's another thing to look into. Going so far as to contact whatever the funeral home or the cremation service and understand what's available, to get that kind of queued up in terms of what that process is. If your loved one is going into hospice, this is something they're going to want to know about for sure. But if they haven't gone into hospice, this is really important to have. So, my mother passed away a few years ago, and she had actually prepaid for her cremation, which was great. We didn't have to assume that financial responsibility. That's another thing you might want to talk to somebody about. Unfortunately, funerals are very expensive. Funerals are expensive in this country. Another one I would just put a pin in is if somebody wants to donate their organs or their body, this is definitely something that has to be prearranged. So, and that needs to be made very specific. Okay, next slide. The third thing I work on with folks is how that person would like to be remembered. Most people, their first reaction when you ask them this question is, I don't care, I'll be dead. And what I say to them is, okay, sure, but this is actually one of the last great gifts you can give to your loved ones. Because if the more you write down what you would like to have happen, the fewer decisions you are asking them to make in their time of grief, when nobody is thinking in their right mind. So I just recently had my mother-in-law pass away, And I had taken the time with her because this is what I do. And had gotten what she wanted for her memorial. And we're using that right now to plan her memorial. And it just takes out all the decision making, right? Because her husband is not really capable of doing that right now. And it also takes out the family dynamics, right? Where you can lean behind, yeah, but mom wanted this. So that really kind of takes away some things that can come up. So a celebration of life. Is it religious? Are there poems they want read? How about music? Do they have key roles that they want people to play? Is there someone they would like to deliver their eulogy? Are there flowers that they would like? Where would they like it? As specific as they can make it. I mean, like, so I want Iggy Pop's Lust for Life played at my memorial, right? So, it can be crazy. I had someone who said, I met my husband while seeing, our first date was at this movie. I want to have a showing of this movie. It doesn't have to be your standard memorial. It can be anything that you want. Likewise, a memorial marker. A lot of people, if either it's a headstone and it's going to be engraved, or maybe it's something in their backyard, or some other kind of way that they want to be memorialized in a physical sense after they're gone, capturing that and understanding what that is. As someone is passing, it's a good time to think about a legacy project. This can be anything from a recipe book of their favorite recipes, or I'm currently working on a life history for a couple of friends, of clients' parents, capturing their story and putting that with photos, explaining how they came and what they, and kind of what they think their life's been about. Or I have another client who has taken the t-shirts her husband's t-shirt collection and had that turned into a quilt. So it can be a range of things, but that might be a way to memorialize that person and what they've accomplished. And then finally here, see about trying to capture key moments in someone's life, whether you fully write the obituary or you just have a list of, this is what happened to me in high school. These are my key accomplishments. This is where I went to college. This is, kind of just the facts. There, you can definitely get a template for that. I also want to do a shout out to Trustworthy, who's just come up with a great AI tool to write an obituary. And I actually wrote my own obituary using that tool just the other day. And, I would say it's a great jumping off place. I'd probably embellish it some more, but one of the things I will say, it is absolutely awful that people have to be asked to write an obituary right after someone dies. That is not a great time to have to put together a sentence, and talk about what somebody's about. So getting as much of that as you can, and really, this is a great place to use AI as an assistant to get this written for you.
And stick around. We'll have a link for that for you, the AI obituary writer for you here at the end.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Number 4, this is the lay of the land for their estate. And this is actually where I, as a trustworthy certified expert, really use Trustworthy. So all of these tools that I'm going to talk about, or all of these items, can be uploaded into Trustworthy. So it's in one central place. So the first is these key estate documents, your will, your medical orders, for scope of treatment. So this is basically saying, I want to be intubated, I don't want to be intubated, what kind of care that you want. Very important. Your power of attorneys, medical power of attorneys, financial power of attorneys. You want to know where those are, and these can be easily uploaded into Trustworthy. Your key contact people. That, again, this goes back to that first slide. Who is the financial planner, if there is one? Who is the tax accountant? Who is the employer if somebody is dead? As much as you can get any of that kind of information, who are those key contact people? get that into a sheet. Again, you can upload that information, that contact information into Trustworthy. You want to check the beneficiaries that people have on things like their life insurance policies and their 401ks and anything else. It is important for people to understand that it doesn't matter if your will says you want everything to go to your spouse or your children. If your life insurance policy is the beneficiary on that is your brother or your ex-wife, that will be where that money goes. That trumps anything in your will. And that's really important to know. I just had a good friend who had this happen to them. And it is caused a huge, irreparable problem with their family. The estate was supposed to go to all 3 children. The life insurance policy just names his eldest sister. She's kept it all. You don't want that. That's a terrible thing. Number 4, assets and liabilities. So this is tricky because, especially if you're trying to get this information from your parents, a lot of times the reaction is, you just want my money. And that's really not what it is. It's like you need to know exactly, especially if it's like your father and your mom will be left afterwards and she doesn't know anything. I mean, you need to understand who's on what and what's on second, as they say. So, what's the liability? What, if they have credit cards, what are the names on those credit card accounts? What are the names on their checking and savings accounts? Do they have a mortgage? Who's on the mortgage? Who's on the deed? Same with cars and boats and things like that. Who's on the title of those assets? Do they have, what are the bills that they have to pay every month? Whose names are on those accounts? And as much as you can, you want to begin to build a system so that, when someone dies, if your father dies, it's, they've put things in a trust, or they have a secondary name on that account, or accounts have been set up as payable upon death. And I'm just about to extend beyond my scope of kind of expertise, but this is where you really want to consult a financial advisor or an estate planner to figure out what you need to do. But what you can do is figure out what is the world of their assets and liabilities. And when you have that information, you can upload that into Trustworthy. So like what is the life insurance policy and how do they access that? So that it becomes much easier for you after someone passes to manage those accounts. Accounts and passwords. So, we have a huge amount of our life online now, and technically it is against the law to sign into someone's account. And that isn't to say that that doesn't happen, but that is the law. It is important to know that Apple and Google have legacy contacts that you can set up so that in the case of when I die, I have a legacy contact set up so that my husband legally can access my accounts on social media, on Facebook and Google and Apple. And if you just Google legacy accounts, Google legacy accounts, iPhone, they'll tell you exactly how to do that. It takes a couple of minutes, but that is how you can legally get into those accounts. But you want to find out from your person, what is their online life look like? Do they have a Venmo account? Do they pay their bills online? What bills are they paying online? How about their Netflix account, their newspaper accounts, all of those things. And again, this is a great tool. Trustworthy is a great tool to organize that for you. And then finally, allocation of key belongings and pets. So again, this is not something people think about. They're like, I don't care. You can just give it away. I don't care. But I have seen more bad blood happen over stuff than anything else. It doesn't matter if it's valuable. It has, it's that grandma's teapot that she would serve tea on that people will go 50 rounds on. So, it's important to take the time to make a list, to ask people what are things that you care about, and there's several different ways of getting that information. I've put together a list of key possessions that I have, who I want to get those possessions, and why, which is really important because I bought that necklace with that person when we were in Egypt, and so I want her to have it. So it's a meaningful reason. There's other ways of, I've seen families where they send out a list to all the children, and everybody says what they want. And if they have a disagreement, the parents either arbitrarily decide who gets what, or they come up with a system for, how they're going to resolve a possession that everybody wants. But my point is, doing it ahead of time, again, just like the celebration of life, just clears the way for family not to have bad blood after, because it is just stuff, but I'll tell you, bad blood will be happening over this kind of stuff. And then the last piece I just want to mention is pets. Pets are property. And so pets need to be taking the time to decide whether it's in your will or outside of your will, what you want to have happen with your pets is very important. Next slide. And so now we're back at being intentional and being present. I want to remind you not to let the to-dos overtake you. If you feel like they're consuming you, consider reaching out and hiring someone to help you with the process. Whether that's a trustworthy certified expert to gather up all these documents and things like that, or it's a death doula to really sit with your person and get them to answer some of these questions. Again, you need to decide if that's really how you want to spend your time with the last days that you have with your parents. I'm guessing it's probably not, because these are hard conversations. I also want to tell you that I don't care who you are. Your mom is still your mom, and your dad is still your dad. And even if they're passing, they are going to drive you crazy at times. And that's okay, because that's part of the relationship. So it's just important to know that you don't become a saint, and neither do they. Right? We take it all with us, right? So that's okay, and just know that that's the case, and don't feel terrible about it. That's just how it is, right? Remind yourself to give yourself grace and give yourself a break. I tell people that it's important to think, if you were a friend of someone who was going through what you were going through, how would you comfort them? And do that for yourself. That it's important to remember that it's not easy, and it's hard. It's hard work, and we forget that we need to be able to comfort ourselves and give ourselves grace, because we're not going to be perfect, and we're going to lose our patience, and we're going to feel terrible because we just lost our patience with someone who's going through a terrible thing. But it happens, and we're human. It's okay. And then finally, recognize that what you're going through is anticipatory grief, right? And that's a real thing. And it's okay. And you can feel like you're losing your mind, but it is all part of the process. So I think that's it. Oh, how to get the conversation started. They asked me to also say, so this is all fine and good, but I can't even get my dad to talk to me about this. So I don't know if that's your experience. That has been my experience. It's been very hard to get my own father to talk to me about this. And what I want to say is how I have gotten it started in my family, and how I encourage people to get it started, is by actually going through all these things for yourself, and getting yourself organized, and then having conversations where you just say, hey, I was meeting with my estate attorney, and I have decided these are the things I want to do. Have you thought about that? Or I was looking into what I wanted to do with my body when I died, and I think I'm going to do a water cremation. Have you guys thought about what you want to do? And so it gives a way to have the conversation that starts from your place rather than them feeling like you are, in some ways hastening their death by just talking about this. And it, comes in drips and drabs. It takes a certain kind of person who's really ready to do this work in any kind of sustained place, because let's face it. I mean, thinking about our own death is not the happiest of topics, but it can be done. I often tell people, if they're trying to do this work on their own, to give themselves a year to get all of these things done, and kind of chip away at all these different points month after month. I'll tell you, organizing your accounts and all your paperwork is going to take you a couple of months. So, build that into your work plan. But that way it feels manageable, because otherwise it feels overwhelming. So, 1 month you can be, I'm going to really think about what I would want for my celebration of life and just get that down. But that's the best thing I can think of. And once you've done it for yourself, you can share it with your loved ones. And that may be a way to get them, if they're hesitant, to actually begin to think, to take this on. But unfortunately, some people are just are very afraid of death and aren't going to be wanting to talk about it. So, that is really where I think we end. So now we'll open it up for questions if we have any.
Okay, so our first question is, how does Trustworthy ensure the security of my data that I've uploaded?
That is a great question. So we at Trustworthy take security very, very seriously. I'm more than happy to share a whole webpage around all of our security measures. But we work in partnership with several different types of security measures to ensure that nothing is getting through and out of your Trustworthy account. We also use two-factor authentication, so that way as you're signing in, you are authenticated to sign into your Trustworthy account. And we also don't do any scraping of that information to allow it to live in any cloud in its full. So all that to say, we are very, very keen and very, very focused on security for our members. And I can absolutely send out a link for more information on that.
Our next question is just, will this be recorded so we can rewatch it? Yes, it will be. And Taylor is going to send it out to everyone.
Yes.
And our next question, can I download the script from Kim so I can remember it all? I tried taking notes, but I know some things were missed. Had to leave the session at 2:45. Do we send the deck, or we just send the recording?
I just send the recording, so you will have the recording of this afterwards.
Awesome. That's good. It's well received. I thought it was great too, Kim.
I know, absolutely.
Will Trustworthy add a new category that consolidates and organizes medical information? Yes.
That's a great question, Graham. Yes, it's definitely something that we're looking forward to doing, hopefully this year, sooner rather than later.
Also, how is Trustworthy different from something like 1Password?
Another really great question. So 1Password is more of a space for you to save your passwords and your logins. Trustworthy really, and we'll go through this here in just a bit, but we do have a lot more capabilities in terms of saving documents, such as your insurance, your IDs, your medical information, your mortgage information. Those kinds of things can all live in Trustworthy. And so it is a little bit different and a little bit more broad in terms of what our capabilities are versus 1Password.
And Trustworthy is, just to keep it relevant, is also a great place to keep instructions for what to do when you pass on.
Yes, exactly. That was actually one thing that I was going to mention, Kim, as you were talking about it, on number 4, is that there are spaces in which you can keep documentation for family members, You can add tiles there that have directives for your family members on what to do with the information that you save in each of the categories. So there's definitely ways to organize Trustworthy, and especially as you're working with a Trustworthy certified expert like Kim, they can really help guide you through what the best way is to organize for your family.
And just for me personally, we use 1Password, and I actually store our master password information in Trustworthy. So that's a way to connect back to that. So Steve asked this question: if we, the older parents, want to have a conversation about these issues with our children who are not excited about all this stuff, what's a strategy for doing that? So I think it's a good time. Oh, sorry. This is my cat who has decided to join us. So I'm going to just try to put him down. You know, it can be hard. I think it's a good time to maybe not do it with everybody all at once. Think about in the group of children that you have, who of the reticent is the least reticent. And I would say, you know, try to take a walk with them, try to schedule some quiet time with them and say, you know, there's nothing going on, but, you know, immediately, but I want you to know where these things are, what we're thinking about, you know, so that, you know, I don't want you to have the same experience I had with my mother or with my father. You know, again, kind of coming from a personal experience, or I want you to have the same great experience that we had with my parents, where we knew everything and it went very, very easily. And so we're setting up a system for you guys, and start with them. And you can also, depending on the relationship with your children, say, you know, I'm having trouble engaging so-and-so in this. Do you have suggestions for how we might do it? You know, I mean, I think the more you open it up, and just be honest, right? That you don't have all the questions. But I mean, really, again, I want to go back to all this planning is a huge gift that you are giving to someone, because, you know, one of the reasons we have trouble with grief in our culture is that we don't let ourselves experience it fully. And the only way to be healthy is to really sit with our grief and move through our grief. And we can let all this paperwork and all the bureaucracy of death, you know, stop us from doing that. And that really, I think, is detrimental to our health. So this is a huge gift of love that you are even thinking about planning this. Hope that's helpful.
And I will say too, that is such a great way to think about it too, Kim. I will say that with Trustworthy, being able to build it and having this gift of having the information compiled in a space that is shareable, Trustworthy allows for you to share with loved ones when you're ready. And once you've been able to have the conversation to say, everything is here and ready for you. You don't have to do anything. We've compiled it, we've organized it, and this is our gift to you, so that once this happens, you don't have to worry about it any longer. So really hopeful that Trustworthy can be that resource for you as well.
Great answers. I was excited about that question as the former kid who didn't want to talk about it. We have a question. Besides using our Trustworthy's AI feature for the obituary, are there other suggestions for how to use AI in this type of planning? And also, how will the link to the AI tool be sent out?
It's not an obituary writer, it's a eulogy writer, which can be translated into an obituary as well. No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. I will have a slide for that for you to scan a QR code here shortly. We also do utilize AI as part of our Trustworthy tool to help with organization of documents. So as you're sending documents into Trustworthy or uploading documents, we have an AI tool called Autopilot. And this allows for seamless organization within the tool itself. So it will upload the document and allow for you to say, and allow for Trustworthy to say, this document belongs in IDs based on the information, and it'll help you organize it more seamlessly. If you haven't tried it, it's kind of mind-blowing as you upload documents and you're like, oh, this is so easy to be able to just upload, have it organized, and on your way and ready to go. So Autopilot is a customized AI tool that we use here at Trustworthy.
Love it. Can I add a parent who does not live in my home to my Trustworthy account? The answer to that is definitely. You can use our collaboration feature to invite whomever you'd like, and there's no limit on how many collaborators you can have. You also have full control over how much access someone gets. So you can have a partial collaborator and they could have access to just one item, or you could have a full collaborator, they can see everything. And then relevant to this, we have a legacy level where they get access to everything once you pass on.
Yes. So I'm going to keep moving forward. If you have any more questions, we'll circle back to the Q&A, but I wanted to give a little bit more information around Trustworthy itself. I know we've had several questions about Trustworthy here today, which is great. Couple things. First thing, I think we see that there are families that are facing the problem of information scattered across various different silos, whether you have it in a lockbox somewhere, or it's in the closet, or it's in the attic, or it's in a file box somewhere. And Trustworthy really aims to centralize and organize this data to be able to avoid losing track of some crucial information. And as part of the discussion today, a lot of that crucial information is necessary as you're preparing for the death of a loved one. Additionally, Trustworthy helps avoid any financial pitfalls associated with disorganization, such as late fees and penalties. We have a feature in Trustworthy Reminders. As you upload documentation, it will automatically set reminders for any renewal periods, or say your ID needs to be renewed. Those kinds of things really help take the stress off of the individual to be able to look forward to the things that are actually most important to you. It reduces an emotional tax, it reduces anxiety caused by managing household paperwork, and that is the real problem of the cost associated with some of the ways in which we've traditionally done these things. Oops, I skipped a slide. So traditionally, there is what we would call the DIY system. So unlike these DIY systems that start with sort of like a blank page, Trustworthy provides pre-populated placeholders and guidance to help you and users know where to put specific information or specific documents, removing the guesswork and making it super easy to stay organized. Which, again, coming back to the topic we're talking about today and the question that we just had, when you're giving this gift of organization for your family members, whether it's for you or for a loved one, this organization is crucial to be able to move forward, to be able to look ahead at what's the most important part of this transition of loss. And so the system within Trustworthy allows for that. Lastly, users can easily share specific information with loved ones and trusted professionals. This ensures everyone has access to the right information at the right time. This can include temporary sharing of information via what we would call secure links. So if you need to, for example, send a specific document to an advisor or a professional in your life, such as a mortgage document, we can share those securely via secure links, and it's a one-time link that you can share. We also have the ability, like Cairo mentioned, to invite collaborators to your Trustworthy account. It's truly beneficial for when you're planning for after loss. It also serves as ongoing needs, like having access to important documents and information anytime, anywhere, for daily life activities and urgent needs. So not only is it great, this family operating system is it great for things like after loss, it's great for everyday use, and we see it every single day here at Trustworthy. So that's a little bit about Trustworthy. If there's any questions around that, happy to answer any more that come through before we wrap up here. As well. With all the info added into Trustworthy, is there a way to download all the info to a computer thumb drive as well? We do have a way to download, yes. So you will never lose access to your information that's uploaded to Trustworthy. And there is a way to do that now. And if you have any issues with that, our support team at support@trustworthy.com is more than happy to help arrange that as well.
Yeah, and Dawn's comment about knowing what your kids don't care about, such as heirlooms and photos, what they want and what they don't want. There's a process called Swedish death cleaning that is really about doing that ahead of time, is going through your stuff. And I know for some, it is getting rid of our stuff is another way to begin to get ready to leave this world, and literally lightening our load on the way out. And it can be very, sometimes our possessions are what is holding us on this planet. And it is good to know what your kids want. Like, you may think that China is going to be something they want, but that's not always the case. So and yeah, it can free up money for you to be used in other ways. But it's just a good dialogue to have.
We have one last comment that says Kim could be a collaborator and then be given access to info that allows her to serve a loved one in the end of life stage. And yes, that is one of the ways that the feature can be used for sure. And yes, you can upload video. You can't play it in our platform, but you could definitely store it.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to make
that's a great way to also leave a legacy message too.
Oh yes, that is such a good point. Yes. There is a space in Trustworthy and a category where you can leave these kinds of things for your family members as well, letters, videos, things like that. Okay, I understand that Trustworthy allows you to download the items uploaded, but does Trustworthy also download all the notes and other text you've entered? Oh, I see.
Yeah, like when you add a note to something. I'm actually not sure about that. I know you can export all of your items,
yes.
But I think it's your documents and not the extra content.
Yeah, not the extra content, but
yeah, a way around that. I mean, if these are instructions that you want to give to people after you pass, you could create those as a document and then upload those into Trustworthy.
Yes.
Great work.
Taylor and I were just about to say that.
Yeah. Great work around, Kim. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that was our last one.
Yeah, that's the last question. So if you have any other questions or you would like to connect with us or connect with Kim, we had her information here in the recording, so please make sure you do that. She is also a Trustworthy certified expert and can help you gather information, really prepare for the loss of a loved one or prepare your loved one as well. With that, as a thank you for attending today's webinar, we also wanted to provide you a discount code for our silver or gold plans. This QR code takes you to a video to show you how to add these codes during checkout. So please feel free to take a look at that. I'll give you a few moments if this is something that is worth looking into for you. This will also be part of the recording that we sent out. Additionally, we wanted to also touch on the eulogy writer that Kim was speaking to early on. She was mentioning as part of an obituary writer. This is a eulogy writer, which I think can kind of tackle both things. And Kim, you actually said something really interesting of being able to write one for yourself ahead of and allowing for the planning. Our free AI eulogy writer is free to use. It's super easy. It allows you to have some personalization and meaningfulness behind the message. And if you're writing it for someone else or writing it for yourself, we also allow for downloading it, and you can actually save that as a download to your Trustworthy account as well by logging in and uploading it to a category. And so this QR code will take you to that eulogy writer. Amazing. That is it for today's content, and we really, really appreciate you, Kim. Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your knowledge. And like I mentioned earlier, this will be a recording that we send out to everybody, so keep an eye out for that. And we thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.